So I was in the sea this morning and started, I think I've spoke about this before, like getting messages through my body, hearing very distinct messages just as I go about my day, like just one word or a sentence or a command. Like I always explain it to my clients is it will come in like a commandment, like one of the 10 commandments that Moses had on Mount Sinai. Like these messages that come in through your body from, I don't know where they're coming from, God, the collective unconscious, your own highest self, your future self, the field of possibilities. They seem to be like coming from a place of something outside of myself that speaks to me and has a lot of divine wisdom that I don't walk about with in everyday life and everyday situations. So this morning, and it does tend to happen in moments of meditation, like when you're driving or doing the dishes, washing the dishes, or for me, it happens when I'm out walking or when I'm in the sea. So I was in the sea this morning early and meditating in the sea and I was like I keep hearing this same sentence over and over again. I've been hearing it for about probably been hearing it since about January or February to be honest, so about 3 or 4 months. Um you're being asked to evolve. I just hear it all the time. You're being asked to evolve. And like me personally, my clients, my my family, the world is a universal collective. We are being asked to evolve. What does that mean? So this morning when I was sitting meditating on it, I was like, right, what does that mean? Like I say it to my clients. I think honestly in the past 2 weeks I've said it about 20 times. You're being asked to evolve. It is received by people in a variety of ways. Some people are when they hear those words, you're being asked to evolve, their immediate reaction is fear. Well, what does that mean? What I've got to change? What have I got to change? I'm already doing enough. Said it to someone recently, and they were an online coach that was finding having new clients, getting new clients to be a challenge. And that was when I was with him, I was like, you're being asked to evolve. That's what's happening here. Like the old ways aren't working anymore. Like you're going to have to find new ways. And he got a bit frustrated with me, and well, not specifically with me, I hope, but more with the message. Although most of my clients tend to get frustrated with me as well. That um he was like, well, what more can I do? Like, I already wake up at 6, so now I've got to wake up at 5. It's like, no, no, no. Like, being asked to evolve does not mean that you're being asked to do more. That's not. In fact, if you're already doing loads and loads and loads, your evolution would then be to stay still and not do as much. Let inspiration come up from the white space of nothingness, from the void. So, being asked to evolve, if you're already ticking a million boxes per day and then someone like me comes along and says, oh, you're being asked to evolve, that does not mean that you're being asked to do more. Probably what you're being asked is to do less. And the most important thing to understand is that your body is asking you to do the thing. Your soul, your highest self, God, whoever it is that speaks to us in that voice, that commanding voice through the body, I often say to clients that it's like it whispers to you when you're just about to fall asleep at night, or it whispers to you in the bath, or when you're doing something, when you're distracted by something else, it's like a little whisper. Now, one of the other things was when I was meditating on this sentence this morning, you're being asked to evolve. I was meditating on it before I pressed record here, and I heard another sentence that is from the Bible. So I wrote a post about this a couple of weeks ago. It's Luke chapter 11, verse 17. Every kingdom divided among itself is brought to desolation. So when I was meditating this morning about on this, you're being asked to evolve, and then this verse from the Bible come in at the same time while I was meditating on that specific sentence. I was like, how those two things correlated. Okay, you're being asked to evolve, and this verse from the Bible of every kingdom divided among itself is brought to desolation. How are those two things connected? The kingdom that is divided among itself is the ego and the soul. The kingdom is within. everything starts within. What's out there is only a projection on the screen of what we're carrying within. So if the kingdom should fall into desolation out there, and that can look any way to any different people. It could look like your business isn't doing it very well, your relationship isn't doing very well, your physical house, there's things happening in your physical house, your physical body, your health isn't doing very well. That looks like a form of desolation is the word that's used in the Bible. Then that's because of it, of something that's going on within you. Our bodies are very, very intelligent. They draw towards us situations, scenarios in our life, situations, life events that show us what we are carrying within us and what energy we are vibrating, what frequency we are vibrating at, and what we're carrying within our energetic system. Like you have no idea, we have no idea the level of intelligence that our bodies have. Like every single time a client sits in front of me and tells me this thing has happened, if I ask enough questions, if I sift through their subconscious enough with them, ask a question about this, oh, I remember that happened, I remember that happened, then we always arrive back at the same place. This life event, this situation, this health problem, relationship problem, business problem, family problem, money problems, these are all the things that we have problems in, right? They there is always a link between that and something that's happened in the past that they have not looked at properly. So there's always a spiral. We always go back up and down the spiral many, many times. There's a saying, if the wind is deep, you will have to clear it many times. Okay. Now, if you have a wind that you never looked at, then you clear it once, you clear it at this level, and then you get to rest on your laurels for a couple of years. Then you go back and you clear it again, and you clear it again, you clear it again. And sometimes it's like the third or fourth time where you're in a life situation that you're like, oh, this feels like that other thing that happened, but it's the same, but it's also not quite the same. But it's almost like I'm being tested in the same way. Like I'm being asked the same questions about this life event as opposed to that life event that happened 5 years ago. And it's to show that what I've learned from there. When I started piecing the pieces of the puzzle together in my life, I was just like, oh my God, my mind is absolutely blown. And then realizing, all right, well, wait a minute, what's the intelligence behind how this is happening? What's making this happen? And realizing it was my own subconscious, it was the divine intelligence inside of all of us that enables us to see the things that we have not yet cleared, not yet purified from our system, by showing it to us again. Like imagine like on a projected on a movie screen. Imagine like you're sitting watching your life. You'd be sitting there going, no, no, wait a minute, that happened to you before. That was like that thing that happened 5 years ago, and you didn't fully deal with that properly at that time. So now another version of it's come here. You've got to be sitting in the audience watching your own life on the big screen, going, ah, wait a minute, right, I know what's happening here. So so I don't know how I went down that wee tangent there, but it's a bit exciting. Got a bit excited about it, didn't I? You're being asked to evolve is this, it's been playing this constant loop in my head. By the way, for me, I'm being asked to evolve. My clients are being asked to evolve. As I say it on every single call, we sit down and I'm like, right, you're being asked to evolve. Tell me what that looks like. And so then I'm meditating on it and I hear Luke chapter 11, verse 17, and I'm like, right, how are these two things connected? Every kingdom divided amongst itself is brought to desolation. Okay. So the kingdom that is divided amongst itself is the kingdom within. It's you. You're divided within. So the division within is between your ego and your soul. It's you're divided from your soul, your highest version of yourself, the spark within you that is God, that is the divine intelligence that created all of us. If you're divided from that, if you're getting further and further away from that, then your life looks more and more desolate. It looks more like desolation. It looks more like challenging, turmoil, facing all these life events that seem really, really difficult because you're constantly being asked to come back to this place of stillness within you that is God, that is the divine intelligence that created us all and also created you, and it is the spark of energy within you that creates the differences in your life. So but the most amazing part of this is the kingdom has to be divided so that you can feel the desolation, so that you can then make the changes and feel the joy that comes after that. So you have to feel the desolation to feel the joy. And the only way you can feel the desolation is if there's a division between your ego and your soul within yourself. So do you see how it's like this little process that we absolutely must go on? I think it was Carl Jung, but it might not have been, that said the ego is the petri dish in which all alchemy must take place, right? So there's this. A lot of people talk online, and there's many books written, and many people far more intelligent than me know a lot more about the ego and the subconscious and the um the shadow and what that does to our everyday life. And we've come to this place where, and I notice this in my clients, and for sure I noticed it myself for a long time, where the ego is almost the enemy, and the ego is not the enemy. The ego is the only way in which you can make change. You can only make change through the ego. We can only make it through the contrast of the ego leading us down this path and us realizing we don't like that path that we're going down. So the ego's actually done us a big favor. Now, what the ego does, though, is it tries to keep us on that path because that path is comfortable. And the ego is solely created from a place of lack of love. And what another word for lack of love that we have here is, we call it fear. Okay? So I used to tell all my clients all the time, I heard it on a Jim Carrey video a long time ago, that um, there's only love or fear. That's it. We only have two emotions, love or fear, and you have to figure out if what one you're vibrating at. A few years ago, 2022, I think it was, and it was February, and it was cold and it was wet, and I was sitting on the beach in the southern England where I used to live, and I was sitting there meditating in the morning, and it was wet, windy and cold and just grim as hell. And I just kept hearing, go in the sea, put your feet in the sea, put your feet in the sea. And right, and I said this to you, when you hear the voice of your soul, you don't like it. First of all, your ego doesn't like it. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm cold enough, and I've got on a dress because I always wear dresses anyway, right? But it's a thick woolly dress, and I've got a big jacket on, bare legs, obs, because I've just always got bare legs. I don't like wearing tights. I find them quite restrictive. Don't know what this has got to do with Luke chapter 11, verse 17, but we're just going to go with it. We're going to keep it in. We're going to go with it. Um, and I'm sitting there and I've got trainers on, and I just kept hearing, put your feet in the sea, put your feet in the sea. And I was like, I don't want to put my feet in the sea. So anyway, of course, took my trainers and my socks off, put my feet in the sea. It's freezing cold, really icy cold. I'm on the beach by myself, and I just heard, there is only love. And for weeks and weeks, I've been telling people there's only love or fear. That's the two. And then I heard there's only love, and I was like, are you shitting me? Like, really? Like, now I've got to go back and say, by the way, I've said there's only love or fear. Actually, God told me on the beach when I had my feet in the freezing cold water that there's only love. So it's not even true. There's love or fear. There is only love. So I meditated on it for a couple of days afterwards, and I was like, well, what does that mean? What about fear? We've got fear. Fear is a thing, right? Fear is just lack of love, because when we are vibrating at a frequency of unconditional love and curiosity, and we are aligned with the divine source that created us and it enables us to create our lives, we understand that there's nothing to fear. There's no immediate fear unless you're in immediate danger. And I say this all the time, your body's well equipped for immediate danger. Your body will take over. Okay, your hair stands on end, your bowel's empty, like your body knows what to do when a lion's chasing you. Your bowel's empty so that you can run faster, your hair stands on end so that you appear bigger. Your body knows what to do if there's a lion chasing you. And unless there is a lion chasing you, then there's nothing there. And by the way, I know there's other versions of fear, right? It's not just a lion chasing you. It's like your child gets sick or something like that. There are other versions of fear, but fear generally lives in the future or the past. It doesn't live in the present moment. In the present moment, when you're alive, you've got breath in your body, and you can create anything from here. You can choose to be aligned with unconditional love and curiosity. Now, I'm going to sit here and tell you right now, no one finds that more difficult than me, right? To choose to be aligned with unconditional love and curiosity when my body's jacked up, ready for fear. And I've been speaking about this a lot recently with my clients, that most of my clients have got the opposite fear response from me. And your fear response is very much based on your environment growing up, how you watched everybody else react to fear, and like the way in which we're brought up. So I was brought up in a family of five kids, my mum, dad. Um, I was the fourth. I was the first girl. I've got three older brothers. They were boisterous boys in the 80s and 90s, and they were a bit, I often say that we were all a bit feral. And so it was a fast-paced, high-octane environment. There was five of us. My poor mother was, she was quite frazzled by us. And we were all like we all spoke really, really loud. Apart from my oldest brother, he's the quietest. But we're all big personalities, and we're loud and we're outgoing, and we tell stories, and we played pranks on each other, and we made each other laugh, and we did things to each other, and we annoyed each other all the time. Because I often look back on it and be like, well, if you didn't talk, you would get lost in amongst all the kids. So we're all trying to talk louder than the other one. So what ended up happening is my little sister, who I love dearly, is the youngest of the five of us, and she's absolutely wild. And because she had to become the biggest personality, because she had four people above her that she had to be louder than and bigger than, and she was the baby, and we all thought she was really, really cute, and everybody doted on her. So our personalities were created in this environment, not only our personalities, but also our fight or flight response. So my best friend grew up in a house where it was just her and her brother. Her dad worked night shift. So she was told from a young age, you need to be quiet, you need to, because dad's sleeping. So she's really, really quiet. She's really introverted. She speaks really, really low. And like, we often laugh because she'll go out for the day and she'll come back and she's just gone out for the day and done a normal thing, gone to the supermarket, gone and worked in a coffee shop, come home. I'll go out for the day and I come back with like 40 different stories to tell. I'm like, well, I met this guy in the coffee shop and he had a dog and he was telling me about his dog. So I was talking about that. So then I was telling him about my book that I wrote. And then, yes, he's following me on YouTube now. And then I walked over and I saw there was a little bird on the side of the road. So I was talking to the little bird because it done injured its wing. And I tell her all these stories. Oh, and I went into the bakery and they had this and that. And she's just like, Ali, I just went to the supermarket and come back. Like, how do you interact with all these people? Because I was brought up in an environment where everybody had loads of people round about them to interact with, first of all, and then we enjoyed it. That was how we got energy. We got energized by each other. We all absorbed each other's energy, and we were like loud and big and fun. And so that was how our personalities were created. Our fight or flight response was also created in that environment. So I grew up in the west coast of Scotland, where, like I've spoken about this so many times. Like the first time I ever went to therapy, I said to my therapist, who was this lovely, very quietly spoken man from California, and I was like, Scottish women are fiery. Like that's what we're like. We're angry, and he just put it so amazingly for me when he was like, well, you're a small nation and you were like invaded time and time again by the neighbour who was the bigger, stronger neighbour who was England. So your people had to become tough, also the Vikings and stuff like that. So I think the Vikings invaded us. I mean, I'm from quite near to a time where there's a big Viking like history, so I should know that, but I don't. But I'll find out about it. I'll do some research. So we were this smaller nation that was invaded and attacked and had to become defensive. So we became defensive. So our fight or flight um, manifested as defense of we would fight back. We wanted to fight back. I remember just my mind being totally blown by this revelation. Like, oh, right, okay, so it's not just because me and my sister are quite fiery, it's Scottish people, Scottish women, Scottish people as a collective, right? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then when I went to Malta, I met the Maltese, lots and lots of Maltese people, and a lot of the time they reminded me of Scottish people, and I was like, oh, like they're very similar. And then I was researching the history of Malta, and I realised that they had been invaded loads and loads of times as well. So it's like this collective personality type that comes about, and so. my fight or flight response is I want to fight. I want to fight with everybody. If I get backed into a corner, I want to fight. I want to make myself bigger. I raise my voice. I want to stand up and move about. I've got to move my body. My best friend who grew up in the much quieter environment, hers is just shut down, completely shut down, pretend it's not happening. Just it's freeze and also mixed with flight because it's like fly into yourself and pretend it's not happening, or freeze and just try and make myself smaller and pretend I'm not even in the room and nobody will notice I'm in the room. And then I'll be okay, I'll be safe. Me, I'm like I'm up at the door wanting to fight everybody that come. I'd be there fighting the lion, right? She would freeze, I would fight the lion. I'd be like, come ahead, let's just fight. And those responses are also part of a conditioning that was done into me and a conditioning that was done into her based on the environment we grew up in, the country we grew up in. She grew up in the north of England. It's not far from Scotland, but it wasn't quite the same environment. And the understanding that we created these personalities based on our surroundings, our upbringing. Yeah, loads of it is also ancestral stuff. It's things that were carried down generation to generation. A really awesome book on that is Didn't Start With You by, I think it's Mark Walwyn. It's a really, really good book that talks about how what we carry down from our parents and our grandparents and various family members, and how we can absorb traumas that they did not process, but they can be processed by us. When I read the book, I recognised a lot of things in myself that came from other family members, and I've discussed it with my clients at depth and encouraged them to read it, and they have come back and said the same thing. So to take it back, because I've gone down a rabbit hole, we create these personalities, which now we can see that our ego is part of our in part that's our personality, and they're often created from a place of fear. So I was talking to someone recently, and she was saying that how she's never really been able to give or receive unconditional love because she never felt like she received it growing up from her parents through no fault of her parents, right? We're not here to bash anybody's parents. Everybody was doing the best with what they had in every situation. That's what every single person walking the face of this earth is doing the best with what they have in the situation that they're in. And I understand a lot of people might hear that and be like, well, that doesn't make sense. What about child killers and people that do this and people do that? People are still doing the best with what they have. Okay, now we don't know what they have inside of themselves. We don't know what every single person walking this planet has inside of themselves. I don't even know what I've got inside of myself, so how can I possibly ever know about someone else? We can know to a certain extent. We can practice self-awareness. We can practice meditation and understanding what's in our own subconscious, and going into our subconscious and asking those around us to hold up a mirror to show us what's in our subconscious. But we'll never ever fully know what's inside of ourselves, what is fully in there, what fears, every single fear that we've got, every single worry that we've got inside our subconscious that we push back there so we couldn't see it. We'll spend a lifetime in that cave looking for it, and that's good. That's the work of our lifetime. But we'll never ever know what's in there, so we don't know what is inside someone else. And often I think it was Constantine Kissin, who, by the way, I absolutely love. Like, I just absolutely love Constantine Kissin. Really, really want to be on his podcast. I'm going down like an absolute rabbit hole here, but I'd really like to be on him and Francis' podcast, Trigonometry. So if anybody ever sees this from his team, then could you get me on? I don't know what we would talk about because I think he gets like experts on and stuff. So I don't know what we would talk about. I'd probably just talk to him about energy and God and stuff like that. I don't know. But anyway, I think it was him that said about that I listened to in a podcast one time and he was saying that if he I think his family are Jewish, and he said, if he'd have been in Nazi Germany at that time, would he have been a Nazi? Would he have done the things that they were asked to do? And I think he was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know because I would be them. I'd be that person. And the truth is, I think we would. I think like if we grew up and I always say if I grew up in that person's body and had that person's all of that person's life experience, all of that person's DNA, all of that person's conscious awareness and their subconscious that they don't even know have a clue about, would I do the things that that person had done? Yes, of course I would, because I would be that person. I mean, there's no other way. Like we can't put our consciousness into someone else. We've all got a universal consciousness that is the divine spark of intelligence that is God, right? We're all carrying that inside of us. But our egos, our personalities, the things that make us different from that separate us here on this planet, is the personality that we created, the actions that we've taken, that are all conditioned into us by a billion different things. So I can't ever sit here and say that if I was them, I wouldn't have done that. No, you would. You absolutely would. If you were them, you'd have done exactly what they did because you'd be them. No matter who it is, no matter what they've done. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to hear. And it was hard for me to hear it inside my own body the first time I heard it. Because, there's things that has happened to me in my life that I'm like, well, you know, my life would have gone a lot smoother if those things didn't happen. And I still believe that if I was that person, I would do those things. And when I came to that realization, it was very freeing of myself and the other person. And it was also very difficult in the beginning. These things are difficult to hear. Your ego doesn't want to hear them. You don't want to hear that if you'd have been born in Hitler's body and lived Hitler's life and had Hitler's DNA and Hitler's parents and all of Hitler's life experiences and all of the cells inside of his body and everything in his conscious awareness and everything that was in his subconscious that he's not aware of, then you would have done the things that he would have done. We like to think that that's not true, and it is. It's just true. That's what we would do. I do not know how I've gone back down this rabbit hole. Right, so we're going back. We're going back to where I was. I don't even know how I got. So I'll tell you, I know how I got there, right? Because I was talking about the ego. So we created this personality, right? So yeah, so go back to my client who told me that she'd never had the ability to give or receive unconditional love because she felt like she never received it growing up. So she wasn't taught that she was loved unconditionally, and she wasn't taught how to love other people unconditionally. So she believed that love for her came with conditions attached, and she loved other people with conditions attached. So she's very, very type A personality, puts a lot of pressure on herself, but also puts the same amount of pressure on other people. Like it has high expectations and high demands of people in her life, and has them of herself as well, because this is the personality that she's created to stay safe. If you do this, if you do that, if you do the next thing, then you're going to be accepted and you're going to be worthy of unconditional love. We had a conversation recently where, you know, she said to me, if I don't do all the things, if I'm not perfect, then I'm not worthy of unconditional love. And I was like, that's just simply not true, because every single person on this planet is worthy of unconditional love. What do we give unconditional love to most of all? Things that people, beings that are not productive, like babies are not productive, dogs are not productive, right? And people love, everyone, me included, loves babies and dogs unconditionally. Like we don't expect these little babies to come out the womb and start being productive. By the way, there's a caveat to that, in that we want something from our children. We want unconditional love from them. We want validation from them. But when they first come out, and it's the first couple of days, and before we've started conditioning them into who we want them to be, they don't do anything. They just poo and pee and sleep. And they deserve all the unconditional love in the world. The same happens when you're a grown up, and even if that was all you were capable of doing was pooing and peeing and sleeping, then you're still worthy of being on the planet. You're still deserving of unconditional love. And me and her did a lot of work on this, where we got to this place where she was like, it's because I never received it as a child. there was always conditions attached to it. You have to behave in this way because this is the right way. So what happened was I thought, well, if I don't behave that way, then I don't have unconditional love. So then I started creating those my own expectations of other people. I expect you to behave in this way, and if you don't, then I'm not going to give you unconditional love. And what happened was she could neither give it nor receive it, so she'd never felt it. And I said to her, because you feel like you'll be abandoned, like there's a fear of abandonment that's within us all that starts in childhood, because if we get abandoned, and I think I spoke about this recently on a video where it was common practice if you had too many babies, or just you couldn't afford the babies, you didn't have enough food for the babies, they would take them outside and leave them outside to die. And I think it was called exposure. And the babies would just be left outside. So to die because there wasn't enough food to go around for them, or if they had any sort of like disability at birth or something. This is a long, long time ago. But remember, we carry the ancestral trauma of things like that in our DNA for generations to come. So if we don't conform to the rules of the tribe, then we could be left outside to die by the tribe. Now this is not always literal, right? Although, as I pointed out, at some point it was literal. But metaphorically, like we'll just not be as loved as what we could be by our parents if we didn't behave in this way.